I remember back when the Xbox 360 was in its heyday, and this was at a time where gaming was a little bit more fragmented with their handheld and home consoles. PlayStation had the PS3 and the PSP, and then Nintendo had the DS as well as the Wii. Xbox, on the other hand, this was really the only one that just refused to jump into the handheld market, and maybe that was because they didn't want to develop for two completely different platforms, and hey, okay, that's perfectly reasonable. But in today's world, things are a little bit different. There's been some breakthroughs with handheld devices. We now have platforms like the Nintendo Switch, like the Steam Deck, and also the ROG Ally. The technology to unify home consoles with handhelds is now here, and it's really only getting better by the year. So is it finally time to answer those long-time dreams of an Xbox handheld console? Well, some rather interesting reports broke over the weekend that not only leaked some information, but now we also have an official response by the Xboss himself. Phil Spencer and Team Xbox seems to be cooking up something, and we will talk about that just in a moment. Now, we will also talk about a big PlayStation 5 exclusive that might be heading over to other platforms in the future, and this seemingly was confirmed as well. Let's get right into this Xbox story, though, because I've been waiting since 2001 to have a platform like this, and the dream seemingly is now finally coming true. An Xbox handheld currently is reportedly in development. This first came from Jez Corden over on the Xbox 2 podcast, where he claimed that Xbox was working on new concepts for an Xbox handheld, and he did clarify that this is not a cloud-based platform. This instead is a fully native Xbox handheld. Now, theoretically, it could still have some cloud functionality, just as the Xbox Series X and the Series S does, but right now, the prototypes for this handheld are built with native games in mind, and, the thing is this isn't even the most exciting part of this story. Remember, this is only a rumor for the time being, and that's the thing here. Interestingly enough, another big report got posted today from Polygon. Phil Spencer basically confirmed that they are experimenting with an Xbox handheld. Now, we already knew that he was a big fan of PC gaming handhelds. He's made that very public in the past. He likes to carry around his ROG Ally and the Legion Go, and clearly, the technology now has him thinking about their own internal handheld. Take a listen to what he had to say. I want my Lenovo Legion Go to feel like an Xbox. I brought the Legion Go with me to GDC. I'm on the airplane and I have this list of everything that makes it not feel like an Xbox. Forget about the brand. More like, are all of my games there? Do all my games show up with the save files that I want? I'll tell you one game that doesn't right now. It's driving me crazy. Is Fallout 76. It doesn't have cross-save. I want to be able to boot into the Xbox app in a full screen, but in a compact mode. And all of my social experiences is there. Like, I want it to feel like the dash on my Xbox when I turn on my television, except I want it on those devices. Yeah, I'd say that that's already quite telling, but hang on. There's actually more here. He also said that they're considering different types of hardware. He said that we're considering different hardware form factors and things that they could go do. What should we build that will find new players, that will allow people to play at times when they couldn't go play in the past? I mean, I don't really know what else he could possibly say here that makes it any more clear what he's trying to say. Just as Jez Corden already claimed, they're experimenting with their very own handheld. And again, this makes perfect sense. The technology is here, and it's only going to get better. We've already seen how incredible this technology is with things like the Steam Deck and the ROG Ally. And while they're not quite as powerful as something like the PlayStation 5 or the Xbox Series X, they are still acceptable. And that's going to continue to improve over the coming years with not just the hardware, but you also have to remember AI upscaling is also getting better. That is an important component for any future device, especially when it comes to these handhelds. AI upscaling could allow them to unlock even more capability with some of this technology. But I mean, you look at something like Nintendo, and they've been pioneering this market since 2017. They've already sold 140 million Switch units, which is absolutely crazy. And when all is said and done, it very well might actually end up being the best-selling console ever made. So they ultimately proved that yes, there is a huge audience out there that likes the option to play on a handheld. And over the next so many years, things could really start to get competitive. Of course, we have the Nintendo Switch 2 presumably coming in 2025, but based on the rumors and really just the technology that's available right now, there is a very real chance that both Xbox and PlayStation, they could come in with their own handheld options in the future. I mean, we already know that Xbox is no stranger to having multiple SKUs. This generation, you can choose between the Xbox Series X or the Series S. But with their next console, what if they had an Xbox handheld instead? Now, I know some people might ask, why would you even want an Xbox handheld instead of just getting something like, let's say, the ROG Ally that we can already get today? And really, I think that kind of comes down to a few different things. One is that console experience where you just pick it up and you play it. You don't have to worry about Windows or anything like that. That's kind of one of the things that makes the Steam Deck so special, and maybe Xbox can bring that with their own first-party handheld. Now, there's also a compatibility component to this. This is actually something that Phil Spencer refers to in his statement. Not every Xbox game is available on the ROG Ally, nor is every game necessarily optimized for it. And even if they do work on the ROG Ally, that doesn't necessarily mean that you can play it on your Xbox, turn your Xbox off, go turn on the ROG Ally, and it just immediately work from there. Not every game has those cloud saves, and that's something else that Phil Spencer mentioned. A first-party device, though, could solve those problems. And assuming the Xbox keeps backwards compatibility, that's another bonus to think about as well, because suddenly you would then be able to play all of those OG and old Xbox 360 games on a handheld. Games like Lost Odyssey, Conquer Live and Reloaded, Viva Pinatas, Blue Dragon, and the list goes on and on and on. This is something that a first-party Xbox handheld console could offer right out of the box. So I think there's definitely a lot of potential bonuses of having Xbox work on their own handheld console that would specifically fit their brand and what they want to do with it. Also, like I said in a previous video, because I do think that this story is kind of prevalent to PlayStation as well, there's rumors out there that they're also experimenting with their own handheld. And I think for Japan alone, this makes a lot of sense for them, just considering their preference for handhelds in the Japanese market. I think the only thing about this story, though, is that this does kind of maybe further cement the future of digital gaming if this were to happen. I mean, this is no guarantee, but I imagine if Xbox or PlayStation were to make their own handhelds, which increasingly seems likely, well, they'll probably make them digital only with the promise that they'll be cross-buy and cross-play with their home console counterparts. So that theoretically would encourage gamers to buy digitally more next generation, which I'm sure both Xbox and PlayStation would probably be pretty happy about. Let me know what you all think about all of this, though. Would you be interested in a handheld Xbox console, for that matter? Let me go and hear your thoughts about PlayStation making their own as well. But again, the handheld market could get very interesting very soon. Okay, now speaking of PlayStation, one of their biggest exclusives may not necessarily be exclusive in the future, because Yoshi P from Square Enix said this about Final Fantasy XVI and its development process. It's not over in the sense that we have the PC version. Once the PC version is released, we're thinking about hopefully moving to other platforms as well. However, that's not really talking about the story. It's more about moving it onto different platforms. So there's a sense that while the project is still going, there is not that sense of being sad and having to leave them yet. But I'm pretty sure that once everything is released and we've moved on to the next project, that would be the time where it kind of hits us that, oh, it's really over. So this is kind of the same situation that we just talked about with Phil Spencer. You really can't make it much more clear than this. Yoshi P has every aspiration to get Final Fantasy XVI on more platforms, and I mean, you can kind of read between the lines here. There's not really a ton more devices on the market, so you can more or less guess as to what he's referring to. There's Nintendo, and there's Xbox. So maybe one or both of those could be in their future plans. The Nintendo Switch 2 theoretically could include Nintendo in this conversation. And as I've said before, if Square Enix can get these Final Fantasy games on Nintendo, honestly, it would be asinine not to. Nintendo absolutely dominates Japan. It's not even close by this point, and we are seeing a decline over there for Final Fantasy. So if Square Enix was smart about this, they should do everything in their power to get these games on Nintendo in the future if possible. Just hopefully the Switch 2 will be capable with its new hardware and its NVIDIA DLSS technology. Hopefully that will be enough. But as for Xbox, we know its hardware is more than capable, and this really just kind of leans into the increasingly improved Xbox Square Enix relationship. We saw it just blossom on stage last year, where Square Enix announced a stronger commitment to the Xbox brand when possible. And those really are the keywords here, when possible. Currently, we don't know the contract between Square Enix and Sony. But if that contract expires anytime soon, then yeah, I think that there is a very strong chance that 16 will head over to Xbox sooner rather than later. For that matter, Jez Corden in the past did indicate that this very much could happen, so this is just kind of more fuel for the fire. Now, for you Final Fantasy fans out there, though, I do have some good news here, and this is something that I'm actually personally very excited about. I love the classic Final Fantasy games, and Final Fantasy XIV is suddenly getting a lot of content for Final Fantasy IX. And when Yoshi P was asked about this, his response was rather coy. He simply said it's a secret. Now, this isn't some kind of confirmation per se, but while he's not saying anything, it's not really some big secret that Square Enix might be working on a Final Fantasy IX remake. Now, the reason that we believe this to be the case is because of that NVIDIA GeForce leak back in 2021. Yoshi P might want to keep a secret, but we can't really say the same thing about NVIDIA. Despite NVIDIA's weak response, where they stated that list of games was speculative, over time that leak has proven to be fairly accurate, and well, Final Fantasy IX Remake was indeed on that list of games. So, I mean, if anything, when you put two and two together, you can kind of see where the speculation online has gone. This really only increases the belief that a Final Fantasy IX Remake is currently in the works. Now, that doesn't mean that it will release anytime soon. Who knows about all of that? But it does seem like this project is very much real based on all of the different rumors and leaks that we've heard since 2021. Now, one last thing before I go, we did get an update for the Days Gone studio, Sony Bend. There's been a lot of discussion and really even controversy with the studio since the completion of Days Gone. This is a game that reportedly sold more than 8 million units in 19 months, and you would think that would be enough to give them the green light for a sequel if that's what they truly want to make, which apparently it was what they wanted to make. The thing is, though, is that's not how it all played out, because Sony actually canceled the sequel, and the creative director no longer works at Sony Bend. Now, there's been speculation that might have been the result of its lukewarm reviews, but nonetheless, there has been a lot of discussion about what they're doing next. Well, thanks to a new job listing, it's been spotted that there's been several mention that whatever this game is, it could possibly be dealing with live service. One of its requirements specifically says hands-on game development experience in leadership roles shipping AAA live service games. So, I mean, there it is. If this is true, I don't think it's necessarily overly surprising, just considering Sony's increased emphasis on live service games. But I will say, this pivot from Days Gone 2 to this more live service direction, I can understand why fans look at that and they're a little disappointed with what this news seemingly indicates. I mean, I think by this point, we all kind of know this is what Jim Ryan ultimately wanted. He very much believed that live service was the future of gaming. But PlayStation is also learning that just because you have talented single-player studios, that doesn't necessarily mean that they'll have the same success with live service games. Just look at what happened to Naughty Dog in Factions 2. That game got canceled. There was also London Studios, and after showing a lot of promise with Blood and Truth, they decided to work on a live service project next, and Sony just shut them down. Even Media Molecule, the beloved Media Molecule behind Little Big Planet, they set out to support Dreams for 10 plus years, and it barely gained any traction at all. That project has now ended its support. I mean, live service games are just tough, but hopefully Sony Bend will find some success where some of these other studios failed. I mean, I think the thing is that fans hear live service, and right now there is this negative connotation to live service games, so fans kind of get exasperated hearing about it all the time, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad game. We do need to still see it and see what happens, but yes, it does very much sound like whatever they're working on, it will be some kind of AAA live service game in some shape or form. Anyways, though, that's going to be it for this episode. Again, do let me hear your thoughts about the reported Xbox handheld. I know I'm very excited about this. This is something that I've wanted for a very, very long time, but I do want to hear from you all. Until next time, though, peace out.